My initial thought when I was reading through this book was I wish Napoleon Hill talked less about how to attract money into your life and talked more about how to attract different types of wealth. In my opinion, money clogs people's minds. It makes people do things that they normally wouldn't do. And referring back to my personal journey, what's gotten me to where I am right now is how I attracted different types of wealth, being rich in spirituality, having great health, having good mental health, and having strong family connections made all the difference to where I am right now. But as I was reading through these principles, a few principles did stood out to me that would really help you guys attract different types of wealth into your life. And the first one is desire. And this is a desire that becomes a healthy obsession, an obsession that turns into an idea, this idea that manifests into your mind, and this is the first thing you think about when you wake up, and it's the last thing when you go to bed. But how you do this is described by Napoleon by this 5-step process that he describes. And even though this 5-step process talks more about how to attract money, it still applies to different types of wealth as well. And he says that first you need to fix your mind with the exact amount of money you desire. The second one is to determine exactly what you would tend to give in return for that money. The third is establish a definite date for when you're going to attain this money. And the fourth is write a clear, concise statement with your determinations from above that you mentioned before. And last is read the statement twice every single day. The major themes that came up in this process, regardless of if you want to attract money or if you want to attract happiness, is first you need to be incredibly focused on what you really want. The second one is being incredibly clear. And third is giving yourself that sense of urgency, giving yourself that deadline to help push yourself to all right, in 1 year, I'm going to get what I want. A good example here is I have 2 weeks left to graduate, and a lot of people come up to me like, I really want a job. I need a job. And if you use Napoleon Hill's process, instead of saying, I want a job, if people said, I want to be a project manager at this company by this date, it would help them become incredibly focused on what they really want. And I would even take it a step further and write out an exact plan of how you'd go about achieving this. So for instance, I would say, I plan on reaching out to 5 people that work in the company through LinkedIn or other social networks. Or I'm going to build a portfolio and send cold emails to the company every single day. Lastly is I want to plan and go to their community events or their networking events. And this sounds really obsessive and it sounds really crazy and overbearing, but this is what Napoleon Hill was talking about, which is turning a thought into an obsession that turns into something where you're actively working towards it. The second principle here is the principle of autosuggestion. And what autosuggestion is all about thoughts. It's amazing how thoughts are so powerful. With exams coming up for me, I realized that every time I have finals exams or exams in general, I engulf myself with so much stress and anxiety, and without fail, I get sick and my bones start to ache or my body's not feeling great. Our thoughts are directly connected to how our body feels, and once we realize that, the world opens up to you because now you know how to treat your body and how to use your thoughts to help treat your body in a healthier way, and even more so with our minds. So what do I mean by that? If you picture our mind as like fertile soil, we feed the soil by our thoughts. And the big thing here is, the big takeaway I want you guys to understand is that our mind doesn't know the difference between good versus bad thoughts. So the health of our soil really depends on what we're putting in. And we need to do this by mindfully exercising our ability to filter out the bad thoughts and feeding our mind with the good thoughts. A good example here is that I was a cross-country runner and a track runner in high school, and I was determined to run a sub 5-minute mile. But it took me 3.5 years to achieve this. And you might ask me why. And it all boils down to the thoughts and the information I was feeding my mind. For the first few years, I hung out with the wrong group of people. I hung out with junior varsity, and they had different goals in mind, and they didn't align with my goals. I had fear and a lack of self-confidence that defied me every time I got into the starting line. And I had no support group. I had no group of people telling me, yes, Herschel, you can do this. Your dreams are possible. The last year, when I became very intentional and proactive, I started hanging out with the varsity runners. I was finally being coached by people who actually ran a 5-minute mile before. And I built that support network to build my mental confidence. And long behold, my last race as a senior, I ran a 4:57 mile. And I'm saying this to you now because it is your turn. Because in the art of being mindful, whether you want health, happiness, or money, you need to exercise your mind to realize that it is possible. It all boils down to how clear you are and what you're feeding into your mind every single day.